I'm Richie Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things.
I've been on holiday and I came back. Lots of nice things happened on holiday. It was a genuinely good holiday. And but I'm not going to tell you about that. I'm going to tell you about the fact that I'm now, as I speak to you, I'm sitting in my parents' house because I'm staying in the West Country this week doing some shoots for the YouTube channel, going for little walks with my dad. And I went for a walk yesterday in a place which used to be a shithole, and it's not now. It seems to be really good. And we were...
Was that by Madonna? This used to be a shithole. That was one of her songs.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that we're still talking about in almost disbelief was the fact that we were. There's an old sort of mining train trail from the harbour of this little seaside town, and we wanted to go on it, and while the weather was good, and it goes under a steam train track, but we couldn't find the start of it. We knew we were nearby, and we went down a couple of little back streets right next to the harbour. And there was a guy. I mean, I sort of clocked it and did an eyebrow raise to my dad. There was a guy washing his car with a normal hosepipe. Bearing in mind it was the hottest day of the year. He was washing it in the mid-afternoon, so the time when you probably shouldn't. Yeah. With a hosepipe in one hand, and in the other hand, it was, you know, a dustpan and brush? The brush of the dustpan.
Yes.
He was washing his car, a Hyundai i10, with the brush of the dustpan and brush and a hose. And he sort of looked like a mixture between someone from the Summer of Love and a pirate, and was wearing denim cut-off shorts, which I wouldn't mind so much if it was a boiling hot day. But as he turned round to hose the back of the car as we were sort of walking past him trying to work out where we were going, I realised that one of the pockets had been completely torn off, and basically half of the back of the shorts was missing, and he just saw bare ass shit.
This sounds like a dream.
Oh, it was just so good. And the problem was we lingered a bit too long because we were at this point where we thought that the start of this walking trail was, and he noticed that we were lingering, and he came over and he said, "Are you lost?" And I said, "Oh, I'm looking for the Mineral Line walk." And he said, "Oh, yes, of course." He was really well spoken, but yet he looked like a sort of a piratey Summer of '69 type. And he said, "Oh no, you've got to go round where I'm washing the car and go straight down. You can't miss it. It's all there." And then, but he had the arse completely torn out of his shorts.
Was he wearing? What was he wearing on his top half?
Nothing. But
he was shirtless.
Yeah, but he had a necklace with a couple of sort of unprecious polished stones.
Unprecious.
So, you know what I mean.
I don't. There's a lot to unpack.
There is so much to unpack. It was amazing. He was wearing. He had sort of long hair in a ponytail, quite sort of hippie, but very well spoken, very tanned. Like my dad. That was the first time my dad noticed. He was like, "Bloody hell, he's not used cream for a long time," and barefoot.
Barefoot as well.
Yeah, barefoot, washing this Hyundai i10. And I thought, well done, he's taking a bit of pride in it. But then I realised in the other hand was the brush from a dustpan and brush.
They can be quite coarse, those, as well.
They can be really coarse.
So, really what he was doing was just sort of wetting his car and then brushing the water away again.
Yeah, because the car was...
probably brushing little bits of paint away with it.
Well, the car was instantly steaming because it was that hot part of the day. Yeah. So it was the wrong time, really. Yeah. I think he was probably swishing seagull shit off it because there was an awful lot of seagull hanging around. So that was the start of this little walk that we had, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. We've been chuckling about it ever since. We were trying to work out, does he know that like, most of the back of the shorts are missing? And my dad was like, he's got to know. He must know. He wasn't wearing any underwear, but also he thinks that the bloke went to put them on in the morning, and if you haven't aligned your toes properly as you push through the leg and you're in a rush, or you haven't cut your toenails properly. Yeah. And I think he smashed out the back. He smashed out the back pocket of his own shorts, and then just gone, "Oh bollocks, I don't care," and then just put them on. And just gone.
But he's the embodiment of the expression "kicked the arse out of it." Then,
yeah, he kicked the arse out of his own short, and then just went ahead.
Literally done that. Bloody hell!
Yeah.
Was he gristly thin?
He was quite thin, yeah, and we were trying to work out whether he was a seaman or whether he was someone that just lived near the harbour and enjoyed the hustle and bustle and the seaside town life, but wasn't actually a sea dweller. Not dweller. You don't live in this. You know what I mean? You're fairer. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Fish are sea dwellers. I think human beings generally not so much.
Well, actually, and the town he lives in is called Watchet, which years ago.
Is it?
Yeah, years ago we used to call it. What, comma shit ? Because it used to be an absolute hovel, but weirdly, it's suddenly become amazing. Ah. So big shout out to the gentrification and the incredible attention to detail and artisanal bread available on the harbour side of Watchet. Because trust me, when I was a student and a kid, it was not like that. I actually fell asleep on the bus and overshot the junction I needed to get off to come home once from one of my first Saturday jobs. And I ended up in Watchet, and I got out the bus in a bit of a panic and called my brother from a payphone who was at home. This ages this conversation, doesn't it? And I was in a bit of a panic, and I said, "Greg, I've fallen asleep on the bus, and I'm in Watchet." He went, "Watchet?" He said, "The only people that are there are drunks and whores. What are you doing?" So he came and fetched me. But, so yeah.
For your own safety?
Yeah, although it wasn't, I don't think it was a dangerous place. But it was a place for pickled sailors and maybe ladies of the night, I don't know. But
is it a fishing port?
It was, but it was also, had a big paper mill and and this mineral line that we were walking along, which I think was in the early 1800s. So that used to get iron ore from the top of the hills. That was they basically dug a bit of a coombe out of this big hill, which was a line which was cable driven trucks. They used to fill with iron ore, then take them down the hill to the harbour side, load boats with iron ore, take it over to South Wales, and I believe they used to bring back coal from.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there was a bit of a trade thing going on, and then there was a hustle bustling, paper mill, which has been there for 200 years, and sadly it shut down 7 years ago, finally. And the building's still there and stuff, but it's all probably going to become second homes for people from Surrey. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, the place was awesome. Well, really good.
I mean, you're selling it. You're selling it to anyone who's looking for somewhere to go on holiday this summer and wants to see a man's buttock while he brushes water off an Hyundai i10. That's the place to go.
Or Hyundai, as people get angry with me for not saying, apparently.
Do they?
Yeah, I get it a lot on YouTube. If I review a Hyundai and I say Hyundai, especially Americans get cross with me. They say it's Hyundai.
Hyundai.
Yeah.
See, I find, but Americans, I remember this. I wrote a column about it. I borrowed a Hyundai Genesis Coupe, quite a nice car.
Yeah.
And people admired it. They were quite new at the time, and so it attracted a bit of attention. But I found Americans, depending on who you're talking to, would say Hyundai in a variety of ways. Hyundai and Hyundai and Hyundai. Yeah, lots of roundabouts. Humdinger.
Well, the way I see it is the PR manager of Hyundai UK says Hyundai. So the company pays him to represent the company, and he says Hyundai. So I'm going to go with Hyundai.
This reminds me of when the PR people from Dacia got in touch with us at Top Gear because we started making a bit of a joke about the Dacia Sandero and went, thanks for mentioning us all the time on your programme, but it's actually Dacia.
That's right.
And we were like, it's a bit late now.
Yeah.
We can't start saying it differently. It will spoil the joke. So unfortunately, your company is now called Dacia because...
we said so.
Because we said so.
Well, basically, Top Gear had such power then, you could just go, because we said so.
Well, it was a bit like that. I mean, it's sort of unspoken, but that if we say it's pronounced dog shit, that's what your company's going to be called, because we are getting more viewers than your adverts, which actually they were just before Dacia/Dacia came to Britain anyway. So Anyway, but it is Dacia. I know it's Dacia, but that's the local. It's that difficult thing, isn't it? Because Dacia is how a Romanian person would say it, but you have to allow for sort of sometimes localized pronunciations, and people in this country don't say, "Oh, I'm just going for a weekend break in Paris," because that would sound pretentious.
Well,
we're allowed to say Paris because that's the English pronunciation of it.
That's what I'd like to say, though. Ideally,
you'd like to say Paris?
Yeah. Before I forget, while I've got things on my mind about being back at home for a while, I'm borrowing a Kia Picanto base model.
Oh yeah,
and my dad is so impressed with it. I think he thinks it's like a 30 grand car, which is brilliant. He's really impressed with the kit that you get as standard and the drivability. I mean, honestly, it drives really well.
They do, don't they? I borrowed one.
Yeah, and I've been tooling around in that for a bit. And Dad,
why do you have this?
I have this because on the way back from holiday, my wife and the kids dropped me off here and carried on home in the electric car that we took on holiday. But I'm staying down here for a week doing a couple of shoots, so I needed another car. So I borrowed a Picanto.
Uh-huh.
I thought I'll go. And also, it's narrow, Richard, and in Devon and Somerset back lanes, it's narrow. Yeah. And I realised this from when I was on holiday down in South Devon. There's no point in buying a wide car. We went to a pub, quite a sort of well-heeled seafood pub, I think it was, gastro spec, and it looked like the owner of the pub, or maybe the person that lived next to the pub, had a two-door brand new Defender V8.
Oh.
And the number plate just read sound. I don't know, 50UND, whatever.
Yeah.
And it looked great. It was satin finish, but I thought that thing's going to be like straked within 18 months. Both sides are going to need repainting because it's all so narrow around there, like you just wouldn't bother. So, which made me think the ultimate cars in that area are those very narrow Japanese import vehicles, or we've talked about it before, the no longer on sale, probably hasn't been for a while, is it the Daihatsu Terios? Which was a very narrow but capable 4x4. Yes,
and they were narrow, weren't they?
Or a Suzuki Ignis. A Suzuki Ignis is a narrow vehicle.
Yeah, I suppose it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
What else is narrow? Panda. The Panda's still quite narrow. You can still get those.
Yeah.
Panda 4x4 if you needed to go rural places.
Saw one of those in like a forestry green getting flailed around the back lanes. That was good. Yeah.
I'm intrigued by that Defender. The plate, sound.
Sound.
Do you think that's someone who works in the music business, perhaps? And that's how they made their kind of Defender V8 money? Or it's a Scouser who believes themselves to be an excellent person.
Oh, yeah, it could be. That's right.
Sound.
A fundamentally good Scouser with a sort of accurate barometer for life. I don't know. Yeah, sound. I actually quite like that.
Sound, mate.
People used to say sound all the time in the 90s.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Or, by extension, sound as a pound.
Sound as a pound,
Do you remember that? Sound as a pound. In fact, I think there's one of the DJs on Piccadilly Radio in Manchester used to say it all the time, but I think he used to even embellish it even more. I think it was sound as a pound that's found on the ground.
You're joking.
Which was probably overkill, I think.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to pop that in at the end of every sentence, are you? That's just going to...
It's not elegant, no. You'd have to really sort of leverage it in there, but I suppose if you're DJing on your own, you can do what you like. But,
Pirate radio. Bedroom back. Text us what you want to listen to, kind of thing.
So you've got a base model Picanto, which your dad believes to be the
Incredible.
Mercedes S-Class of small Kias.
Yeah, he's really impressed with it, and rightly so. But yeah, I think he's just astounded by the kit that you get on a car at entry level now. We're talking things like, I guess, air conditioning, electric windows, DAB,
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
I was talking about this with a mate yesterday. A friend of ours came over and he was saying, "Oh, I know what it was, because it's been very hot." And I said, "It's a good time for me to suddenly remember that my car's got cooled seats, and they're not super powerful. I think they're not as powerful as the ones you get now, but they do the job. They just take they kind of help to remove a bit of hot back syndrome,
a bit of stickiness, yeah."
But my mate was like, "Oh, I didn't realise, because your car's quite old, relatively speaking. I didn't realise it would have cooled seats." And I was like, "Yeah, you could actually get them with cooled seats in the back, I think. Mine doesn't, but you could get that." And we were saying, it's like, there comes a point, particularly with luxury cars, when they are just desperately trying to think of extra stuff they can add so they can create a hierarchy. Otherwise, it's just like, you have to do the Lexus LS model, where it's just like, look, it's got everything.
Yeah.
There's one model, it's got everything. Do you want it or not?
Stop asking.
But if you want to do your hierarchy of SE, HSE, autobiography as Land Rover do, then you've got to sort of put shit on there. And because if you look at the new Range Rover, because I had to review it a while back, and I kind of genned up on the kit list, and I was going, bloody hell, it's an expensive car now. It's basically a $100,000 car, basic.
Oh, I bet it is.
But actually, the base model, in inverted commas, has got everything you'd want. Anything else just seems sort of, you're just gilding the lily, So they make a big deal out of having sort of nicer leather, but I don't imagine the leather in the bottom end one is crap, so it better not be for £100,000. So what else? You're just garnishing.
It's needless box ticking. It's people that buy a 911 Turbo S Cabriolet with all the options, and they haven't thought that maybe it looks like a bit of a glittery turd, I think. Well, because it's just too busy. It's just a chaotic looking car to me.
Yeah.
And you go, it's the most expensive car, but it doesn't look as good. And you didn't need any of that.
That's true. They are. They're very hectic to look at. It's
just too much.
No.
It's just people that buy designer clothes that actually look a bit shit, but because they're £1,000 for a jumper, that's why they've bought it. If it was 60 quid for the same jumper, they wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah, that's a bloke I used to work with, who was a big designer label fan, but also had he just had crap taste. Basically.
Did he have one of the rear pockets from his shorts missing?
He didn't, but it's the kind of thing he might have done.
Right.
But he would walk in to the office and he'd be wearing a sensationally horrible coat of some sort, and someone would go, "What the bloody hell is that?" And he'd go, "It's Armani." And that was his justification for it. His immediate defence was two-pronged, actually. First of all, it would be the label that made it.
Yeah.
And if that failed, the amount that it cost.
Oh,
and the thing about it was, he was completely unembarrassed about sharing both of these things. I'd be horrified at having to say either of those things. And he was just
spent £2,000 on a really awful coat.
Yeah, but he'd be wearing some really bizarre, like sort of cow print shoes or something. And so I'd go, "What the bloody hell have you got on your feet?" And he'd go, "Patrick Cox." You'd be like, "No, but it doesn't matter whose they are. They're horrible." And he'd go, "These cost 900 quid. And you'd just be like, neither of these things are the defence that you think they are, because what they're saying is you spent too much money on some shit.
Oh, I found a really good piss vista on that walk, like the old Mineral Line. With my dad, actually. It's been a while since it's been a sort of father and son piss
Did you
vista.
say, "Dad, this is a great piss vista"?
Do you know, my dad actually said it to me, because he's a listener.
Of course.
He's a listener of these things, and so he said, in fact, half the conversations we've had in the last 48 hours, he's gone, "Oh, you're going to end up talking about that to Richard, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, got to talk about the Hyundai thing." And the other thing is we were having a walk. We were having a walk yesterday before dinner. And I said, "Oh, is that old Austin Cambridge still down that lane with a completely collapsed garage on it?" And he went, "Caw." He said, "It was there 2 years ago, I haven't walked past that for probably 2 years. So we went for this walk to find it. Unfortunately, it wasn't there. But we did find a really tame fox that wouldn't move. So that was, it's a fox that we got really close to and it just didn't move. It was alive because we saw it moving before.
They do that though, don't they?
Yeah.
I remember once walking back from the pub in Crouch End, walking back past where I used to live, actually, though I didn't know that at the time. And I saw this fox trotting into someone's front gate. And then as I got close to the house that it had gone into, it came out again and it froze. And I was only about 4 or 5 feet from it.
Wow.
And then I sort of edged closer and it didn't move. And I'd been to the pub, so I had a couple of pints, and I clearly wasn't sort of thinking I might get bitten by a fox here. So I was close enough. I thought, if I bent down, I could touch the fox. So I started to slowly bend down to touch the fox, at which point the fox just very casually strolled away as if to go,
no, that's not happening.
Don't touch the fox.
That's brilliant.
You never touch the fox. But I was convinced. I was like, just. I think so. I mean, let's be honest. A London fox, it's not his first rodeo, is it?
Oh.
The drunk is very much the friend of the urban fox, though, on account of dropping kebab meat and stuff.
Oh, yeah, of course. Careless.
Yeah. Careless eater on my mind. But so you found a rural fox that was.
We found a rural. It was in the
bold.
middle of a freshly harvested cornfield, and it was playing. It looked like it was sort of playing. I mean, it was beautiful. I even videoed my hands brushing through the heads of the corn that hadn't been cut yet, pretending to be a Somerset gladiator. But we saw this fox. I'll send you the video. I'll send you this fox, and the fox was awesome. It turns out the garage has been demolished because someone's built a quite a lovely new house there, actually. So the Austin Cambridge that's probably been in that garage since I was a tiny child is gone. Sad face. But you can't have it all, can you? But on the way on the walk, we encountered some really nice paths that my dad had found. Dad being old school, I had my phone with Google Maps. Dad had an Ordnance Survey foldable map. Brilliant.
Oh.
Keeping it. And Dad's map was absolutely true. And while we were doing it, he said, oh, yeah, since lockdown, I've been exploring some of the paths that I haven't walked for years, all around, within 10 miles of the house. And I said, did they ever get overgrown? Because there's stinging nettles and stuff, and I was wearing shorts. He said, oh, yeah. But he said, I always carry secateurs with me. I said, what? He said, well, I said, what? Hang on, are you a vigilante path clearer? He went, well, you get these really vicious thorns, brambles that hang over right on the eye line, and they can be quite dangerous. He said, I carry a pair of secateurs with me, and I snip them back. And he said, and sometimes I'm thinking of carrying another blade with me as well. I said, Dad, you're basically tooling yourself up to do country walks, which I don't know. Is that actually legal? I don't know. You're carrying a piece on some, National Trust.
That's tremendous, though. That's top dadding.
That is top dadding, isn't it? He's
thinking ahead to take some secateurs with you on a walk.
But he's still got a penknife, which he found on the Quantock Hills years ago. That would have been dropped out of a squaddie's backpack because there's an army base near us, an army camp, a commando. I don't mean people that don't wear underpants. You know what I mean? Although they probably
that's where that man was from.
That's exactly where that guy's from. His training is still helping him to this day. But yeah, he found a military penknife and he picked it up and kept it, and he's still got it 30 years later. So if the Royal Commandos are listening to this and they're like, we've been one penknife down since 1987, it's Dad, and he's still got it on a really nice piece of corded string that he hangs from his belt loop. That's Dad's spec. I love it.
I think you've put your dad in danger now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to put him into witness protection, which is why I've got the Kia Picanto, because I can place him anywhere in the country with a new Kia Picanto in a normal colour, and no one will know.
Yeah, and he'll have a nice life going. Oh, it's got air conditioning as standard.
That's right. And so vigilante path clearing. I don't know if this is a thing that listeners are aware of. It's probably a little bit more... it's probably less frowned upon than vigilante car detailing, the thing we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's very it's a very considerate thing to do as well. I'm impressed. It's like, it's for the greater good of everybody who wants to use that path. So that's nice.
It probably flicks any dogs any disrespectful dog owners that let their dogs, make a coil and then don't pick it up afterwards. He probably has a special stick that he flicks it off into the verge with, just in case, just in case.
You mentioned the hottest day of the year, and you saw this gentleman with his exposed arse brushing his car.
Yeah.
On that very hot day, I saw a genial chap wearing a linen suit and one of those hats, like a sort of wide-brimmed, light-coloured hat.
Yeah.
He looked like the kind of man who would enjoy jazz.
Oh, definitely.
And I just admire someone who's got. I mean, he basically looked a bit like the man from Del Monte in terms of the way he was dressed.
Panama.
But he was quite. I guess so. Yes.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is because he was in a car. Do you think you could guess what sort of car it was? Because
XJ.
Obviously, I saw. No, that's a good guess.
Okay.
That's right. He was driving a Subaru Legacy Estate.
Oh, really? Okay. So
I thought slightly quirky choice.
Yeah.
But very likeable and actually rather good.
Go anywhere.
I just thought, go anywhere. But the sort of the jazz fan summer suit and the hat and he was sort of, I let him out of a junction and he did a big beaming smile and a wave, and it was just like, yeah, good. I wonder if he still occasionally he'll have a cigar.
Does he?
A cigar, but.
He doesn't carry his drum kit around in it anymore, but he does, in the door pockets, most probably have a pack of sticks and a pack of brushes, just in case.
Do you think he's an amateur jazz drummer?
I think he is. Or he could be an old a session musician, a retired session musician.
Yeah, could be.
So he could turn his hand. His background is jazz, but he can do other disciplines on the drums.
See, I think the linen suit and the Legacy, I'm seeing a lot of brushwork on the drums.
I'm seeing an incredible amount of brushwork.
Mostly brushwork.
So much brushing. In fact, uses the brush that the guy was cleaning the I-10 with the arseless shorts on. It's all falling into place. It's funny you should mention Panama-hatted man of a certain age, because whilst on holiday, decided to try and be a good boy and go for a run every day.
Oh.
In the heat, so challenging times, challenging terrain. But I did it, and one of the times I left the place we were staying in, and I was just doing a sort of warm-up shimmy, getting ready to break into the run, and I ran round I went round the corner, and there was a little tiny car park right on the waterfront at this bay we were at. And it was a man of a certain age with a Panama hat on, and he was locking with the key in the door, with the central locking, a Jag XJ V8. And it would have been the same shape as your XJR was, which is that the 308 or the
308, yeah.
And and it looked really good, looked really clean. And so as I got quite close to him because I was sort of about to start a run, and he turned around from locking it, and I went, "Really like your car." And he went, "Oh," and he was quite taken aback. He went, "Oh, thank you very much." And I said, "Yeah, that's one of the best XJs, that is. That's one of the best ones." And he sort of patted it as I said that. He'd already locked it, and he sort of patted the top of it like it was a dog and then walked off, which I thought was really cool. It's really cool. And then on that same run, another guy... who was probably in his 50s, was just unlocking and walking to at the other end of the beach, and up GTI, and I think he recognised me, and he sort of did a double take at me, and did the thumbs up, and I might have shouted, because I was very tired by this point and sweating like hell. I think I might have shouted a little bit too loudly. "You know you've done the right thing." I said something like that. It was really, it was embarrassing. I pointed at him quite aggressively and said something like, "You've made the right decision," or "You've bought the right car." And then I was shuffling. I looked like someone who was running away from the enemy, but I probably got a bit of a shrapnel wound. So I was doing a bit of a sort of clutchy shuffle because I was in quite a bit of pain by this point. One of my feet was had pins and needles. So I was not in a good way. It's very much the fitness or lack of was catching up with me. So he might.
I'm sorry. So you shouted, "You know you've done the right thing" at a stranger
who was unlocking his up GTI and putting.
But if he didn't know who you were, in fact,
I think I'm in trouble. I just don't know.
Well, a man just ran past shouting, "You know you've done the right thing." What if he had?
I'm going to stop. I shouldn't have done it. It was. I instantly regretted what I'd said. I shouldn't have said it.
But maybe, he has in fact just grassed up his next door neighbour for tax fraud or something, and he's feeling maybe that he shouldn't have done it. You've given him fresh hope. On the other hand, he could just know exactly who you were, and it's fine.
Well, or he still thinks I'm a weird bastard.
Well, I mean, I imagine sort of breathless. You know you've done the right thing.
Yeah, I know. Clutching my rib because I've got a bit of stitch, and then it's
a bit weird.
Yeah,
I saw an up GTI yesterday, and it was black. It was a black 5-door. It's exactly the spec I would have gone for, and it was really clean as well. It wasn't brand new, but it was incredibly clean. It looked like someone had washed it, not with a dustpan and brush either, but like proper wash.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it was in a supermarket car park, and I was sort of hoping to see the owner so I could go, "Nice, well done, mate." Because I don't know, I just felt like I needed to show appreciation.
There we go. You see, but you just weren't. Yeah. You just weren't billowing with sweat and shuffling like you'd been shot. You probably didn't look as creepy as my effort.
No, I don't imagine that would take some doing. So what was I going to say about? Oh yeah, no, I don't know why this reminded me, but moving on from linen suit jazz drummer man. We never talked on the podcast. I think we only talked in real life about allotment cars.
Oh, yeah.
Because where I used to live in London, there were a weirdly large number of allotments. Like there was a massive one, but then there were some other smaller ones as well. And I used to see people coming and going to the allotment when I was out walking the dog. And it struck me...
I like allotment people.
Well, there's something sort of quite hearty and wholesome about it, isn't there? And... But I realised, and I think some of these they're like hardcore allotmentists, the ones where they've got like a little shed, and it turns out that it's got a sauna and a TV room and a home gym and all sorts of. Basically, they could live in the allotment.
Well, it's
shed.
better than the house.
Yeah, and so they're down there a lot. And then I think if you're doing it that much, you probably do buy a car that is driven by your allotment hobby. And I realised the ultimate allotment car, it seemed to me, certainly in that part of London, was the Renault Kangoo.
I was just about to say it's the sort of practical van car, which is that and the Bipper TP and the Berlingo. What? It is, isn't it? Is it called a Bipper
NBC
TP?
Nightly News with me, Bipper TP.
Yeah, that's right. Bipper TP and the hot dogs. It's like a beatnik.
Oh, yes.
If you're listeners who listen to this going, what the hell is an allotment? I don't know if you have allotments in the States. You probably do, but I don't know if you call them allotments. But it's just an area of ground that you can either have as a garden that's not near your house, or grow fruit and veg, which is what it was for, so people could be more self-sufficient. And I suppose they have an occasional renaissance amongst younger people, but it's normally the preserve of a retired person. But some people take immense pride in it, and there's
I do quite like a nice allotment plot that's been well kept.
Oh, yeah.
Like ordered, and there's something satisfying about looking at it.
Oh, yeah, I live near one, and the best plot in the allotments, the one that's absolutely immaculate, got the most impressive shed, the water butt rainwater collection system is incredible. It turns out the guy, his main job is a plumber, and he collects all the old water tanks, all the old pipe work. He's got this amazing, elaborate system. I reckon it's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. I reckon it's nearly 1,000 litres of water's worth. It's got to be.
What?
I reckon I reckon he's got 1,000 litres of water's worth of storage, and he's rigged it up so It can decant water into all the others, so they all stay level, and they're all linked so that he can rig up a hose pipe and basically just jettison all the water across his allotment. Oh, he's clever.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
But yeah, I think the van-based car is maybe sort of sliding side doors. You can just put tools and those wooden trays of freshly picked veg.
Yeah.
In it, and you're not worrying about fucking up your floor or anything like that. It's all quite, sort of quite wipe out, hose clean, whatever you want to call it. So I could see the appeal, but yeah, definitely I noticed certainly in the vast allotments of Finchley in North London, the Kangoo is king.
Okay. Do you know what I've seen? I don't know if we've talked about this on a previous podcast, but the slightly sad proportions of a Mazda Demio. They are an allotment car to me. They're a Mazda which I don't think many people remember or even care about.
But wasn't it the car you got as a prize in one of the driving games, Gran Turismo?
What, a Mazda Demio?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it?
I think you used to race to win a Demio, which you could then use to trade for bits. And
what would you trade it for? Like a hot dinner? I don't know. What, a bed for the night?
I just remember because there's a mate of mine who always used to call it the Mazda Dolmio.
Okay.
And that was he was only aware of that car because of, I think it was Gran Turismo. It must have been. I'm sure listeners will correct us straight away on that one. But yeah, and it was definitely a feature of the game. But not something you'd want to actually race.
Well, the Demio, which I haven't seen one for a while, that's a worthy. And I think back when I think back to when I was a kid, allotment cars. Do you remember the Nissan Prairie?
Yes,
the Nissan Prairie might have been a bit of an allotment car. I think
I had a mate at primary school whose parents had a Prairie.
Really,
I was so jealous because it had that sliding side door. It just seemed like an incredibly cool thing to have.
It did. Was it one of the first people carriers that wasn't a people carrier? It was still a car. It was just a giant hatchback body.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So is it like?
Yeah,
is that
I suppose so. Although it only had 5 seats, it wasn't. The main thing it had was headroom. Really, it was ideal for a top hat.
That was a top hat car, wasn't it? That was a Amish car. Perfect.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, and the other allotment car which I've seen creeping in, but this is new, so presumably they've either got a lot of blankets and tarps down, or they don't care about, I don't know, soil intrusion. Is a Ford EcoSport.
Yes.
And you know how I feel about those, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. They're crap.
It's the car that people who have given up on life buy. Because they're not sure what to do. They feel like they've got to make a rush decision. A bit like in a restaurant where you can't. The waiters or waitress has already been around once, and you say, "I'm not quite ready. Just give me another couple of minutes," and that couple of minutes is gone, and they're back,
and you panic.
You still don't know what you're going to buy, so you just go, "Oh, just quick. Okay, I'll buy the Ford EcoSport. Just put it on the 14-inch wheels. I don't really care about alloys. Yeah, that's fine. That'll do." Does it come with a steering wheel? Does it come with brakes? Yes. What about indicators?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll have that. I can't stand those cars. The proportions are so wrong.
They're just terrible. Yeah. Oh no, they're miserable, aren't they? Sort of tippy-toed and yeah, not good. Now, speaking of faults, have you seen the latest Focus? They've given it a facelift, and one of the things they've done is they've moved the faults badge from up on the sort of leading edge of the bonnet, effectively, or on the kind of top surface there, into the middle of the grille, and it actually looks rather good.
Where it used to be on earlier. Focus.
Yeah. They've decided now that Folds will all have the badge in the grille again after years of deciding that wasn't the way they wanted their cars to look, and it does on the Focus. I think it looks really, really good, but they've done the same to the Fiesta now, and I've started seeing them around, and it somehow doesn't work.
Oh,
and yet the front of the Fiesta and the Focus, they're pretty quite similar. Same sort of design themes and everything, and shapes and all that. But somehow the Fiesta, I think the grille looks too wide slightly for the car, and it's just off. Have a look. See if you agree
Is
with
the mouth
me. But it's
right? Okay, so you think the mouth's a little bit too big for the car in some way?
somehow I can't quite. I just keep every so often I'll just see one and then go, Whereas the Focus, I find, is what they've done to it quite pleasing.
I need to look at that. I've not seen it.
You're starting to see them around now because it's been out for a while, and I guess
I know neither of us could
supply.
work out a few weeks back whether or not the new Astra had come out, and the new Astra has come out,
I saw one.
and it's good.
It looked all right, but then, do you know what I saw a couple of days ago? Is a new Peugeot 308, which is on the same chassis, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
and that I'm not sure about that.
No,
It looks a bit. It looks a bit heavy-handed somehow.
Heavy.
I thought the old one was quite a reasonable-looking car, but this sort of there's something not. It's the front. They've got a bit giddy with
Is
the
it
front
bulbous?
of the design. It's just heavy-looking.
yeah.
Too much. Too much is just, whereas we've said before that the 508 is a very nice-looking car.
Oh, it's amazing. I saw a 508 Estate loaded up with family holiday gear on the motorway, and I passed it with a huge amount of admiration. I held the stare. You know when you hold the stare when you pass a car that really captures you.
You didn't drop the window and start trying to shout. You've done the right.
I didn't.
Put your window. You've done the right thing.
No.
Pull over. I'll say it properly.
No, I didn't, and I didn't do finger pistols either. But
okay.
It was one of those where I was like, yeah, that's the right car. That's a good car. I like it. Want to see more of those on the road.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen the 308.
Keep them peeled and let me know what you think. Or you could just go.
I might just go.
But yeah, it's just.
I might just go onto a trusted automotive journalist site and just have a quick look.
They'll sort you out. With some pictures of the old cars. Oh, that's something else I was going to mention to you. I've started doing this more often, and I'm annoying myself with it. Is prefacing stuff with the old.
Oh right.
And it's just a twatty. I'm trying to stop doing it. It's going. I'm just going to go and get the old hose pipe out, or just going to go up the old stairs and get the old shoes, and then we can get in the old car and head out to the old park. And it's just no.
So everything's old?
Stop it. I know, but it's not, is it? It's just it's a tick. I've developed a tick, and I don't like it.
Is that something that we're going to start using on this podcast a lot?
Well, it might be.
It sticks and all that.
You're listening to the old Smith and Sniff on the old podcast, the old bollocks about cars and
that would be that would work perfectly. The synergy between that and all that would be really good.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes, it does.
I feel like that could work really well.
I don't like it though.
Going down the old quayside and all that, and
well, that's it. I'm mentioning it so that I'll make myself even more self-conscious about it and not do it. But the other thing I was going to say, talking since we are, as everyone seems to have been in the past week, about the weather in the UK, and but there's something that displeases me more than it should.
More than me using the air conditioning because the rest of my family were moaning at me on the way down to.
I wasn't going to bring the air conditioning up, but I would assume that given record temperatures and everything, that maybe even you had.
No, I had to. It was 50-50 in our family. It was 2 against 2.
Oh.
My son, he wanted it. My daughter did want it. My wife did want it. I didn't want it. So we had this sort of 50-50 AC journey going on.
This is okay.
Yeah, it's not interesting. I won't go into any more detail, but needless to say, it got pulsed every sort of 15 minutes.
Pulsed. I feel like that's less effective, but
it probably is. But I just didn't want the light on the dashboard. It was irritating me.
I was trying to find a message from a listener who had got advice on keeping the car interior cool and based around intermittently opening the windows. I can't find it, but I have found a message from Tom Zenteno, I hope that's the right pronunciation, who's in Newcastle, Australia.
Okay.
Tom said, this happened to a friend of mine. Oh, we were talking, weren't we? A few weeks ago, we were talking about extreme conditions in which you took your driving test.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Tom says this happened to a friend of mine. As Australia is known to do in summer, it was mid-40s.
Yeah.
Which is, that's toasty.
That's
and from memory, my friend had a late 80s Corolla with no aircon.
Nice.
She started her driving test, ensuring to not get the seatbelt branding on her arm. Her driving test instructor was a middle-aged woman, and she managed to get about 1 kilometre down the road with the windows down before she called it, saying, "It's way too hot and you're driving all right, so I'm just going to pass you."
You're joking. That's brilliant.
That's how
she was.
That's how climate helped Tom's friend do the shortest driving test of the 2000s.
1 kilometre. What? Basically, she's like, "It's too hot for me. I can't cope with this, so I don't need to."
It was a full.
Well, there we go. There we go. So that's how cool denying AC is. It gets you an easily passed driving test in a hot country.
Yes, maybe.
Amazing.
So. What I was going to say, the thing that annoys me more than it should, because it's stupid and petty and pedantic, is I really don't like seeing parked cars with the sun visors still down.
Oh.
It's my belief that when you park, you should neatly fold the sun visor back. Because it's not doing anything to keep the car cool while you've left it, is it? They're not big enough for that.
They're not big enough for that.
So it's just because you haven't, you were using it and then you stopped. But I always think it's part of sort of like tidying your car up before you park it.
Yeah. Do you wish you had one of those fold-out, foil-backed reflectors for the windscreen? I know in places like America they use them a lot, and Spain. We don't really do that in the UK. A couple of maybe responsible retired people or caravan owners, they like them. But apart from that, not really, not the done thing in Britain. We can't be bothered with it, maybe.
I have seen a bit in recent weeks. I've seen a bit of the classic beach towel across the steering wheel and dashboard.
Beach towel, good idea. Because you can keep it in the boot.
But not even at the beach.
You can keep it in the boot for winter time. When it's really cold, it'll act as a bit of insulation as well.
I hadn't thought about that. But,
that's something that my dad would do, who's sort of a prepper before prepping was a thing. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, there's prepper and there's just being prepared. I think your dad's just prepared.
Yeah, my dad is just prepped. Yeah, exactly that. Not a prepper. He doesn't have ammunition in the basement or anything. Well, as far as I know.
Well.
Yeah, do you know what? Maybe that's something we could consider for a future piece of international merchandise for Smith and Sniff. Is one of those fold-out windscreen deflectors. Oh, yeah. Because it's a free advert, isn't it?
What, just have like massive OTSOT window?
Yeah.
With sun deflector?
Yeah, or just sort of the silhouette of two people sat in the car with a sill talking about nothing with a microphone. Yeah. There's scope for that. We could do a sun deflector, windscreen sun deflector.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
One size fits all.
I mean, obviously, as usual with our customary excellent planning and forethought, we're just coming up with this idea right when we should be selling them already.
Yeah.
They'll come out just in time for winter. But then, Australian summer.
Yeah.
We could ship them to Australia. So
it's always
Australian summer is to come.
It's always summer somewhere. Or is it?
No, that's not true. No, I had to think about that for a minute. But no, it's not true, is it?
So I sound less thick, please. Is that all right?
I think you're thinking of it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, which is the excuse people use to have a drink early in the morning.
That's right.
Hey, listen, we should give this a little plug. As people probably know, we have a Patreon. You can chuck us £1 or £2 if you like what we do. And now, as a little bonus thing on the Patreon, there is the Smith and Sniff Encyclopedia. And it's basically a guide to a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, the kind of in-jokes and the background to them, which episode they were first mentioned in. So things like On That Side of Things and all that, but also why we occasionally mention Sir Alan Sugar and why we say things like sweet, sweet car in a stupid voice. It's all kind of explained there. So if there's stuff on this podcast, you've always gone, why do they do that? Some of it is just nonsense, but some of it does have a sort of a background in something or other, and this encyclopedia attempts to explain that, and also just to record things that we've talked about and referenced at various points. So there's an added incentive to become a patron. The quite wordy I wrote most of it in one afternoon, but then I keep adding to it because people have been going, "Oh, you missed out this and you missed out that." So it's getting bigger and bigger, and it will continue to expand.
I'm really impressed at the speed at which you turned this out. I think I'd gone on holiday for a day.
You'd gone on holiday, and I was a bit like, "Oh, well, I've been meaning to do it for ages," and I thought, rather than sort of going, right, we need to sit down and do this, the both of us, I'll just do it and then hope that you won't be cross about it when you get back from holiday. But it seems to have gone down okay on the Patreon. So, if you haven't already seen it and you are a patron, then go over there. It's pinned. It's the top post, and it's pinned to the top of the list of posts, so you can find it easily. And as I said, it will keep expanding. And at the bottom, as a little bonus, it has a list of all of the fake YouTube channels that we keep claiming Johnny has as well.
Oh, so really?
What they are, then there's a list of those which will be added to every week while we keep doing that little bit, since it seems to have inexplicably become a format point. And people keep sending suggestions here, which I might just one week just read out a load of the suggestions because we're never going to get through them.
Go on.
But anyway, yes. So to sum up, patreon.com/Smith and Sniff is where you can give us a little bit of money if you so choose. It's much appreciated if you do, and thank you to everybody who already does.
Absolutely, thank you. That's really kind.
In coming times, I've got a couple of other thoughts about little bonus things and bits of material that will pop up on there, as well as the usual show, which comes up early. You get it on a Sunday evening, the new podcast, and you get a thing we call show notes, which is just links and pictures and little thoughts that illustrate or add to stuff that we've discussed in that podcast. That's it. I'm done plugging now.
Well, I was going to say, and maybe we should do a raffle to our patrons, and the winner who gets pulled out of the digital hat gets given an unfinished Banham kit car project, which...
Oh, God, not... That thing that you sent me, that absolutely bog-awful heap of toss that was based on a Jag XJS, wasn't it?
It's a ruined Jag XJS. I think we need to be clear on that. It's
like I said to you when you sent it to me. I was like, the advert. Oh, it's on eBay, isn't it? Or it was.
It is.
But really, the listing should say backlights for an early Mondeo. Unfortunately, attached to some scrap, because as far as I could work out, the only thing of any value on that was the fact that if you need some backlights for an early Mondeo hatchback, that's what it had.
Oh, absolutely.
And they looked shit.
I'll put the link on for patrons, but
Banham, if it's still for sale, we'll find it.
But I don't know if any listeners are familiar with the strange kit car world. Don't get me wrong, there's some brilliant kit cars. There's some real ingenuity. But a chap called Paul Banham, I think he's been responsible for some fairly bad things from what I can see. The X99 being one of them. A car which... I think it was based on a Rover Metro, I believe, with a glass fibre body to make it look like an Audi TT, but proportionally not quite right at all. And I'm guessing by the time you've gone to this effort and you've painted it and you've trimmed it, probably could have got a salvaged, damaged, but not actually that bad real TT, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think that car came out when the TT was still quite new, wasn't it? So probably it was. It's the sort of fake Rolex of cars, isn't it? It's like people who really wanted kind of hot, new, stylish car, but couldn't run to it, whatever it was at the time, sort of 20, 30 grand. And so they could instead have a Metro that looked a bit like a TT if you'd only had a TT described to you by postcard.
It's exactly that. I know, but yeah. Banham did some other cars. Maybe I will list them. But they all make my face... they all bring a squint to my face. all of them.
You just took a sip of what you thought was tea, but it was coffee, and your brain does that
that's right
thing.
It's exactly that.
Process.
When it's a bit like my dad, who casually mentioned a couple of nights ago that he hand feeds hedgehogs in the back garden at the moment.
What?
And I said, I don't believe that you do. I think that you're just making that up.
He hand feeds them, so he holds stuff out and they come in.
He proved it to me last night. Mum and Dad have been getting loads of hedgehogs in the back garden, like up to 4. And he's been buying special hedgehog food, probably recommended by Brian May. I don't know. And needless to say, yeah, they come out every night, and he's got a red light bulb, which is rigged up by the back door, which sounds a bit sort of prostitute.
I was going to say,
but apparently it's definitely to do with hedgehogs, and they can't see red light, so we can see them, but they can't see us. But yeah, we were really close to them,
The wonders of nature.
It's been a while since I've seen a hedgehog, so it was quite nice to.
Yeah, me too.
I'm quite down with them. I don't know what they would be if they were a car.
I don't know. Are hedgehogs tough? I know they're prickly, obviously, but are they hardy beasts, or are they very easily?
I think they're quite hard, but they got a very low ground clearance.
Yes, they haven't they?
Very low. So to me, they're a bit like a mini moke. They have the potential to be good off road, but really, they're probably not, because they're just too low and belly scrapey.
Yeah, no, a hedgehog would take its own sump off.
It would, wouldn't it? So the moke, it has all the attributes of being rugged, but you'd still kind of go, oh, is it though? Is it, with that A-series sump dangling down there like a pair of dog's testicles? Just
Well, there we go. Hedgehogs are the mini moke of the natural world.
It's true.
That seems an appropriate point on which to end this. Before we go, as ever, I've got 3 things to tell you. They are: 1, Johnny has a solo YouTube channel. It's called The Flaked Skate Show, in which he gently oven cooks flat fish and then carefully breaks it apart with a fork. If that's not to your taste, then there's also The Late Break Show, which has got many excellent car and motorbike videos on it.
Yeah.
With what was that last week? Was it Shaky Byrne was doing something? Wasn't
with Shaky Byrne, yeah, and the one that appeared fairly recently was a guy with a very interesting, quirky car cave who's got a right-hand drive Maserati Indy, a car which nobody seems to remember, really.
Yeah. Nice car.
So lovely.
Second thing I've got to tell you is I have various books out. One of them's called Boring Car Trivia 3. And it's full of lots of arcane facts about cars, as you probably could have guessed. And the third thing I've got to tell you is that Timmy Mallet's real name is Timmy Mallet.
Yes, it's true. And he recently cycled around Britain because he fancied it.
Yes.
And I was following him on Instagram, and I've come to realise he's a very good guy.
Yes, I was about to say, I get this feeling that Timmy Mallet is a decent human being.
Very.
And he might be a bit exhausting as a friend because he's so high energy, but I'm sure he turns it down a bit in real life, and he just seems like he's actually got a good heart.
I think he's absolutely, as you've just said. I'd quite like to meet him, but I think he's sort of stage 2 all the time.
Yeah. He's got a high idol, I think.
He's got a very high idol, high energy, high idol, but I kind of like him for that.
Timmy, could you just push the choke in a little bit? Because, we're just sitting in a quiet pub. There's no need for this, but it's just, No, I think if any listeners have ever encountered Timmy Mallet, do write in and let us know what he was like. But if you're not going to say he's nice, then we're simply not interested. hello@smithandsniff.com is the email address. For that or anything else that you'd like to tell us, comment on, correct us, set us straight on the arrant nonsense that we talk. Or, of course, you can get in touch through the Patreon if you're one of our patrons. And that's that for this. We'll do this all again next week. Until then, goodbye.
Bye. I'm Johnny Smith, and I'm cleaning my I-10 with the arse cut out of my shorts. So strange. Honestly.